The probe came through Saturn's rings like a ghost, trailing contrails of ionized dust and an impossible silence. It wasn't trying to hide. In fact, it broadcast a clear message in every human frequency it could find. We see you, Earthborn. We invite you. It was sleek, ovoid, and made of material no Earth nation could identify. Every major power scrambled jets and satellites, but within 48 hours, the probe did what none had expected. It initiated diplomatic contact via a video broadcast from the edge of Earth's orbit. The image was a creature with large, glossy eyes, fur-tufted ears, and twitching whiskers. A voice, softly synthesized, said, "On behalf of the Galactic Accord, we extend peaceful greetings to the intelligent inhabitants of Sol 3. And just like that, humanity learned they were not alone. Welcome to the herd." Captain Alexis Rourke stood at the viewing bay of the Shuttle Endeavour, arms crossed. The Thalen station filled the void before her, a colossal, coral-like structure orbiting a white dwarf star. Ships of impossible geometries moved in and out of its glowing tendrils. Her reflection in the thick glass panel showed sharp cheekbones and sharper eyes. She was not here to play tourist. Behind her, Ambassador Cale Donovan adjusted his collar nervously. "You're scowling again, Rourke." "I don't like zoos," she replied without turning. "And this smells like one." The shuttle docked. A team of aliens waited, tall, slender creatures with antelope-like limbs, squat, scaled bipeds with fluttering throat sacs, and at the center, the being they'd seen on the message, Ambassador Varlen. He stepped forward and bowed. "Welcome, Earth humans. The Accord is honored by your presence." His voice had a tremor to it, not fear, exactly, but the wariness of an animal meeting a new predator. Strangers in a soft world. The first week on Thalen was all protocol and observation. Donovan handled the talks, while Rourke, technically security, spent her time watching everything. The aliens observed humanity just as intensely. Smiles with teeth unsettled them. Eye contact was avoided. When Rourke jokingly mimicked a stretch of yawning and cracked her knuckles, one of the lizard delegates actually fainted. Everything about humans was wrong. Their brains didn't follow the safe, passive problem-solving models the Accord expected. Humans moved fast, argued, asked why, how, and what if. They touched things, challenged rules, and seemed to lack a universal authority they submitted to unquestioningly. In one gathering, a delegation from the Varine, a rabbit-like race, asked what alpha structure Earth used for societal cohesion. Donovan smiled and replied, "We vote on our leaders every few years, then shout at each other until someone compromises." They were horrified. The first strike. Thalen Station was considered a neutral ground, safe, demilitarized. So when a pirate vessel burst out of a docking bay and began firing stun pulses across the promenade, chaos ensued. Non-lethal, but painful, meant to intimidate, not kill. The station's automated defenses hesitated, coded not to escalate. Varlen and others froze, squealing for help. Rourke didn't. She tackled an alien dignitary to the ground just as a pulse shattered the wall behind them. Her eyes scanned the attackers, 3 of them, moving in tight formation, standard weapon grips. Amateurs but bold. She barked orders at the humans in the delegation. "I want a flanking triangle. Cale, stay down." "No weapons," Varlen cried from behind cover. "It's forbidden to." But Rourke had already pulled a slim shock baton from her coat. Non-lethal. Still technically compliant. With swift, predatory precision, she darted between kiosks and dropped one attacker with a jolt to the neck. Another human, Sergeant Madani, used a collapsed food cart for cover and tackled a second. The third tried to run, only to be blindsided by a thrown tray. 30 seconds. All over. When the Accord security finally arrived, they found 3 subdued pirates and a semicircle of trembling delegates, all staring at Rourke like she'd just slaughtered a sacred animal. Fallout. The Accord Council convened a formal review. Ambassador Donovan called it a debrief. Rourke knew an interrogation when she saw one. "You acted without consensus, a feathered creature from the Yulzen delegation squawked. Without awaiting station security. They were shooting, Rourke replied. I didn't feel like dying politely. Varlen twitched his whiskers. You demonstrated incredible coordination and no hesitation. Were you trained for this? Earth's got history. We're survivors. The council whispered among themselves in their ultrasonic native tones. To Rourke, it sounded like mice screaming. Predator echoes. Later, in private, Varlen met with Rourke. You don't blink like us. You don't wait for consensus. You act as though threat is inevitable. It usually is, Rourke said, swirling a cup of tea. Where we come from, the ones who hesitated got eaten. Varlen's ears twitched. I have read your species' evolutionary background. You come not from grazers or nest fleers, but apex hunters. She smiled, no teeth this time. Guilty. That explains much. He looked down at his cup, then back at her with something like wonder. All the Accord species evolved from prey. We feared you might be aggressive. We did not anticipate that you might be necessary. She didn't respond right away. Finally, we're not monsters, but we're not harmless. Humanity? Question mark or exclamation point. In the days that followed, humans became both pariah and paradox. Thalen Station held a symposium on predator cognition in sentient species. Rourke was asked to speak, and what began as a stilted Q&A became a cultural awakening. She explained Earth's history, wars, yes, but also art, exploration, and the triumph of collaboration in chaos. We don't dominate because we're cruel, she said. We survive because we adapt. We outthink. We form tribes and protect them with everything we've got. Sometimes that looks scary. Sometimes it is. But we don't start fights, we end them. Some delegates were unconvinced. Others were quietly fascinated. Among the younger diplomats and scientists, humanity became a subject of intense academic interest. Their brain chemistry, social plasticity, and recreational violence, i.e., sports, were dissected and debated. To many, they were the galaxy's first living paradox. To a few, they were hope. Closing beat. The edge of the herd. The chapter closes with Rourke and Varlen standing at a viewport, watching the stars shift as the station rotates. I imagine this all feels alien, Varlen mused. Rourke chuckled. You have no idea. He turned, his gaze unusually intense. Captain, the Accord may not survive what's coming. There are forces stirring, old prejudices, new threats. We've known peace for generations, but we've forgotten how to protect it. And you think humans might remember? Varlen nodded. Not because you're violent, but because you know how to make peace after. She tapped the glass with one knuckle. Then you better teach your people one thing fast. What's that? Never corner something that evolved with claws. Would you like Chapter 2 next, or a visual concept of Thalen Station and its alien species? The Thalen Station's inner chambers were silent, save for the soft hum of circulating air. In the council hall, a dozen species sat in a crescent of luminescent pedestals. Ambassador Cale Donovan adjusted his tie, again. Captain Alexis Rourke, standing beside him, looked bored. Her eyes scanned the room with the alert patience of a jungle cat. On the center pedestal, high Mediator Island, a translucent-skinned being with luminescent gills, cleared her throat and addressed the assembly. We are gathered to review the psychological assessment data of the human delegation, she said, and to discuss its implications. The room tensed. Rourke smirked. This wasn't a hearing, it was a warning. Predator scores. Alien psychologists had administered a battery of tests, empathy measures, risk tolerance, cognitive aggression markers, neuromotor reaction times. The results disturbed them. Humans scored highly abnormal in all categories. They exhibited goal-directed aggression, risk normalization behavior, and tactical lateral thinking under stress. Worst of all, they demonstrated pre-conflict assertiveness, meaning humans prepared for confrontation before conflict even began. One insectoid delegate, Professor ZSKRR, clicked nervously. These are markers of apex predators in nearly every known ecosystem. Their neurochemical response to threat is not avoidance, but engagement. Rourke crossed her arms. We also pet dogs and cry at movies. Want a test for that? Laughter rippled through the room, but uneasily. Moral discomfort. Outside the council hall, whispers turned into full-on diplomatic tension. The Yulzen and Drafari, long pacifist species, publicly questioned whether humans were safe. One alien newsfeed dubbed Earth the homeworld of the apex paradox. Varlen defended them where he could, but pressure mounted. We must understand, he told Rourke one evening, our civilization exists because we bred out fear through harmony. You challenge that harmony by your very nature. Maybe your harmony is just a different kind of fear, Rourke replied. You build peace by pretending conflict doesn't exist. That's not peace. That's dormancy. Crisis in the skies. 2 weeks later, the crisis came. A diplomatic transport vessel carrying Accord negotiators failed to return from a conference on the outer moon of Kevel Prime. Their last signal was an automated distress beacon. Donovan paced in the command observation room. No military escort, no weapons. Standard Accord protocol. Standard protocol gets people killed, Rourke muttered. Initial attempts to send a recovery drone failed. The signal was jammed. High Mediator Island, shaken but determined, summoned the council. The majority voted to pause and evaluate. Pause. Rourke growled. They're hostages. The Kethari region is unstable, Island replied. Engagement could provoke violence. They've already committed violence. Taking the lead. Donovan pulled Rourke aside. They're not going to act. They can act. Everything about the system, laws, culture, instinct, is wired for caution. It's built for consensus, not risk. She wasn't being condescending. She was being accurate. So Rourke made a call. Operation Echo Talon began 12 hours later, quietly. No big announcement, no vote. Just Rourke, a hand-picked human team, and a small shuttle repurposed from Accord diplomatic use. They didn't ask permission, they simply went. Varlen intercepted her at the launch bay. You know this will be seen as a violation. I know, she said, strapping into her seat. But I'd rather be tried for insubordination than watch diplomats die, because the council's waiting for a committee to hold a meeting about a plan to draft an action proposal. Varlen sighed. You're very exhausting, Captain.
She grinned.
Get used to it.
Kevel Prime.
The shuttle dropped into Kevel Prime's orbit, disguised as a debris-clearing unit. Rourke and her team used orbital shadows and electromagnetic dead zones to hide their approach, tricks perfected from Earth's war-torn past. The pirates were a mixed species group operating in the asteroid belt. Unaffiliated, anarchic, and opportunistic. They never expected a response team trained in infiltration, cross-species combat, and tactical decision-making under fire. The human team neutralized the perimeter silently. Rourke entered the command chamber, dropped 3 pirates with non-lethal rounds, and shouted, On your feet if you want to live. The hostages blinked in shock. One, a bird-like Drafari, fainted. Another squealed in alarm at Rourke's bared teeth as she growled instructions. Within 20 minutes, they were back in orbit. No casualties. No deaths. Pirates subdued and bound for trial. Repercussions. The council was outraged. You've violated interstellar law, High Mediator Island said. You circumvented command structure. You endangered diplomatic balance. Donovan stood beside her. She also saved your people. Through methods we abhor. And yet they worked, Varlen said quietly from his podium. Rourke spoke last. You built a society on the assumption that everyone plays nice. But nature doesn't play by your rules. The galaxy isn't a daycare. It's a wild system. And you've forgotten how to deal with predators. There was silence. Then, finally, a vote. Humanity would remain. But they would not be granted full diplomatic status. Instead, they would serve in a new, probationary role. Tactical advisors. Warriors of necessity. Bridge between worlds. In the following days, Rourke began training volunteer units from several species in situational response. Breaching, shielding, tactical decision trees. One unlikely volunteer stood out. Commander Telzik, a reptilian officer with bright eyes and a cautious spirit. She began shadowing Rourke during drills. I don't like how you do things, Telzik said bluntly. You don't have to like them. You just have to survive. And what if we become like you? Rourke paused. You won't. You'll still be you. Just better prepared. Telzik looked away, but didn't argue. The boogeymen. Whispers spread fast. The humans weren't just anomalies, they were useful anomalies. A predator species that could act when others froze. Some feared them more than before. But a growing number of younger delegates, scientists, thinkers, strategists, began to admire humanity. Maybe we didn't evolve wrong, one Varine academic said. Maybe we evolved safe. And now we need those who didn't. Alien students requested Earth literature, Sun Tzu, Musashi, and even Asimov. A black market of pirated human combat sims began circulating on Thalen. Some called it dangerous. Others called it preparation. Final scene, the cliff's edge. Late one cycle, Rourke stood with Telzik at the edge of the artificial gravity drop near the station's core. Everything's changing, Telzik said. It always does. You think war is coming? I think it's already here. You just haven't admitted it yet. Telzik turned. Then teach me how not to die. Rourke looked at her with something approaching approval. Lesson 1. Never hesitate when your instincts scream. Telzik nodded. Rourke smiled, only a little. Lesson 2. Trust the predator at your side. The Thalen station had changed. Humans now walked openly through its corridors, not as curiosities, but as an uneasy necessity. Species that once flinched at Rourke's confident stride now watched with a strange mix of suspicion and curiosity. Tactical training sessions were oversubscribed. The phrase predator logic entered casual conversation. And something else had shifted. Fear no longer meant paralysis. It meant preparation. But beneath the surface, a storm was building. The warning. It began with static. A deep space monitoring outpost on the edge of Accord territory sent a distress ping, a raw, guttural transmission of screaming, silence, and the crackle of something ancient. Then nothing. High Mediator Island called an emergency session. This was the Trelvec Array, she said. An automated station. It contained no sentient crew. Rourke frowned. Then who was screaming? The chamber fell silent. Varlen adjusted his posture. The last transmission included fragmented visuals. We have isolated several frames. He gestured. A hologram flickered to life, grainy, broken, but unmistakable. A ship, massive, black as void, bristling with protrusions like bone spears. No identifiable engine. No light. It moved with intent. A still frame froze at mid-turn. It looked like a beast smelling its prey. The council murmured. Ambassador Donovan exhaled. That's not a core tech. Or pirate. Or even human. Rourke leaned forward. That thing hunts. The Devourers. Within 48 hours, probes sent to the Trelvec region went dark. A second outpost, a biological relay station run by the Varine, was found shredded, its data banks melted. No life signs. No bodies. They call themselves Valkyrii, Telzik reported. We translated fragments from ancient Accord records. They're not a civilization. They're a phenomenon. They eat, Varlen said grimly. Not just matter. Not just biology. Culture. History. Entire systems vanish into them. They are predators without identity. Only appetite. And you've met them before? Rourke asked. Not us, said Eileen. Our progenitors. We thought them extinct. Or myth. Well, Rourke said, they're back. And I don't think they're here for a chat. The great debate. The council splintered. The Yulzen and others demanded retreat, reinforce border sectors, pull back diplomats. Others, like the Krask, argued for full evacuation from exposed colonies. Only a small minority, led by Varlen and Telzik, argued for defiance. But fear ran deep. Species evolved from prey didn't think in terms of stand and fight. Their instincts screamed scatter, survive, regroup. Rourke didn't speak during the first meeting. She watched. Finally, when it became clear the council would vote to delay action until further analysis, she stood.
No.
All eyes turned. You don't understand.
Your prey.
You think if you run far enough, you'll stop the bleeding. That's not how this works. You can't outfly a wolf that doesn't get tired. You presume much, Captain, a Draffrey hissed. No, she said. I understand predators. And these ones don't just want to win. They want you to know you were food. The Pact of the Claw. The humans proposed a radical plan, a preemptive strike against the Valkyrii forward scouts. Hit fast, hard, and with a mixed species unit trained in Earth-style assault tactics. Use asymmetry, confusion, ambush. No standing fleets, one council member asked, baffled. No fleets, Rourke confirmed. Fleets can be tracked. This is about punching with the unexpected. The vote passed barely. The mission was dubbed Clawpoint. 12 volunteers from across species. 4 humans. 1 ship. 1 target. A Valkyrie scout craft entering the Keval Expanse. The hunt begins. They named the ship the Fong, a small, fast reconnaissance vessel retrofitted with human shock shielding and alien stealth tech. Rourke led the team. Telzik served as her second. The rest were a mixed bag. A Varine cyber analyst named Chaiva, a Krask heavy weapons expert, and a Yulzen medic who refused to use her real name and instead answered only to Lace. From the beginning, it was chaos. The Krask refused to follow verbal commands. The Yulzen panicked at human sparring drills. Chaiva asked if it was necessary to scream during combat. It's not, Rourke said, but it helps. Into the black. The Fong reached the Keval Expanse 5 days later. The Valkyrie scout ship hung silently in orbit around a dead moon. It was wrong. That was the only word Rourke had for it. Its hull absorbed light. Its silhouette shifted subtly, like it was mimicking what you thought it looked like. No radio, Chaiva whispered. No EM. It's hibernating. But watching. They deployed using null-drop pods human-designed.
Crude. Fast. Loud.
The Valkyrie ship reacted, its surface blistering open like muscle tissue. Organic defense turrets emerged. Rourke led the breach team in through a service fracture. The inside was worse. Black corridors lined with veins, echoes of whispers in no known tongue. They reached a central core. It pulsed with heat and pain. That was when the ship woke up. The Predator awakens. From the walls emerged things, limbs, eyes, spines. Not guards. Not drones. Reflexes. The Valkyrie ship fought back like a body resisting surgery. One Krask was lost in seconds, screamed once, then gone. Chaiva was pinned under a shifting wall and only saved by Telzik's quick thinking. Below the core. Rourke ordered. Now? We're still in here. Better us than everyone else. Lace jammed a detonator into the power node. They sprinted back the way they came, corridors slamming shut behind them like a throat closing. The Fong caught them with seconds to spare. The explosion rippled out, not fire, but silence, like the void had inhaled. The Valkyrie ship folded in on itself and vanished in a collapsing bloom of anti-light. Fallout and glory. Back on Thalen, the news spread fast. The council was split again, half horrified at the human recklessness, half awed by the results. For the first time in generations, they had fought a true existential threat and won. Telzik was hailed as a hero. She gave credit to her team. We only lived, she said, because we acted like them. Rourke declined public commendations. She didn't need applause. But she received a private message from Varlen. You are not what we expected. And that is why we might survive. Final scene, the mirror. Late one cycle, Rourke sat alone in the Fong's hangar, cleaning a combat harness. Telzik approached. You think they'll come again? They will, Rourke said. We just lit a beacon. Now they know we're not easy prey. Telzik hesitated. I'm scared. Rourke didn't flinch. Good. So am I. They stood together in silence, two species staring into a future no one could fully predict. Finally, Rourke added. Next time we hit first. and harder. Thalen's station drifted in eerie stillness. Outside, the stars glimmered in innocent silence. Inside, tension coiled in every corridor. Since the destruction of the Valkyrie scout ship, Council protocols had shifted subtly. Security drills were more frequent. Emergency exits were recalibrated. And for the first time in living memory, the Accord considered forming a unified defense force. At its head, humans. And not everyone was pleased. Crisis of identity. The council chambers echoed with unrest. Species who had built their civilization on consensus and caution now debated the unthinkable. Open militarization, predator-led command, proactive strikes. The psychological dissonance rippled through entire cultures. "This is not who we are," said the Yulzen diplomat, tendrils coiled tight. "We do not embrace violence. We transcend it." "Tell that to the Valkyrie," Rourke said, arms crossed. Donovan tried to mediate. "We're not asking you to become like us. We're offering survival. Different philosophies don't matter when you're dead." Varlen added gently, "Perhaps this is not a change of identity. Perhaps this is evolution." A message from the void. The answer came days later. A transmission, long-range, multispectrum, encrypted using mathematics that predated the Accord's own science, broadcast across known space. A Valkyrie construct. Its voice was felt more than heard. A pulse through bone. A knowing behind the eyes. "You have resisted. You have teeth.
Good.
We devour, but we admire those who make the meal meaningful. We will come now for all of you." The signal included galactic coordinates. Thalen Station. The meaning was clear. This was not over. This was the beginning. Predator Alliance. In a private war room deep within the station, Rourke, Donovan, Varlen, Telzik, and a cadre of newly trained species commanders met. "There's no time to evacuate," Telzik said. "They want us to scatter," Rourke replied. "If we run, they'll pick us off one by one." "So, we make a stand?" Chaiva asked via hololink. "No," Rourke said. "We lay a trap." The room fell quiet. Humans didn't survive Earth by being the strongest. We survived by being the smartest. We hunted in packs. We studied our prey. We baited them. Varlen nodded. "Let them think we are prey. Then show them we're not," Rourke finished. The bait. Thalen was transformed. Power grids were rerouted. Emergency corridors sealed. Civilian vessels evacuated quietly while holograms made the station appear fully operational. The humans and their allies turned the station into a killbox. Telzik led the decoy shield, a small fleet of unmanned ships designed to scatter if attacked. Their signals would mimic diplomatic transports, soft, unarmed, vulnerable. The real force, a hybrid team of humans, Krask, Vareen, Draffery, and Yulzen, was hidden in the station's magnetic core housing. They called themselves the Claw Pact.
The first strike.
The Valkyrie arrived not in ships, but in biomechanical horrors, voidcraft that pulsed like hearts, gliding silently from dark space. 3.
No. 5. No. 9.
The council trembled. "They sent a fleet," Donovan muttered. "No," Rourke said, staring at the view screen. "They sent a pack." The bait worked. The decoy ships scattered. The Valkyrie gave chase, just long enough to give the Claw Pact their window. The humans struck first. Drop pods streaked from the underside of the station like fangs. Explosive drones detonated on contact with Valkyrie hulls, enough to irritate, to disrupt, not destroy. To lure. As the Valkyrie turned on the station, the Claw Pact retreated to fortified strongpoints pre-built into the command ring. And then they waited. The Siege of Thalen. The Valkyrie assaulted with bioweapons, organisms that corroded metal and digested energy fields. The station's outer shields failed. Entire decks buckled. But humans had prepared for that. Within minutes, sections of the station jettisoned, on purpose, forcing the Valkyrie to redirect attention and divide their forces. It wasn't a mistake. It was a choke point strategy. "Block the big arteries," Rourke ordered. "Force them into narrow halls." Krask heavy units held those choke points, armed with coil guns modified by HFY to overload the Valkyrie's internal systems. They didn't stop all the invaders, but they slowed them. And slowing was enough. Close quarters. Inside Command Deck 6, Rourke and Telzik fought back-to-back. The Valkyrie were relentless, shifting limbs, corrosive blood, sensory overload screams. Telzik's arm was torn open. She hissed but didn't fall. "You still scared?" Rourke shouted over the chaos. Telzik bared her teeth, a new gesture she'd learned. Terrified. "Good," Rourke grinned. "Means you're still thinking." A Valkyrie creature lunged. Rourke sidestepped, driving a blade through what passed for its thorax. "This," she shouted, "is what we do. We don't run. We fight." Last line. The Valkyrie breached the central chamber. Island stood her ground with the final diplomatic guards, alien pacifists who had chosen to stay. "They're going to kill you," Rourke warned as she arrived, bloodied. "Perhaps," Island said. "But if this is our end, I would rather die standing beside predators than live kneeling among prey." The words rang out, and then the core went critical, the heart of the hunt. Donovan initiated the final phase, Project Apex. It had been buried in Earth archives, a desperation protocol for planetary last stands. The humans called it Predator's Gambit. The core would overload, not explode, but collapse into a controlled gravitational well. A temporary singularity. Enough to crush matter. Not enough to kill the station, if precisely timed. As Valkyrie flooded the core chamber, the claw pact retreated into shielded launch bays. Donovan stayed behind to finish the activation. "You don't have to do this," Rourke told him. He smiled. "I'm a diplomat. This is just very aggressive negotiation." The last image of him, standing tall as the Valkyrie bore down, his hand on the trigger. Then darkness. And collapse. The end and after. The singularity consumed the Valkyrie ships. The station rocked, buckled, but held. Silence followed. No more transmissions. No more movement in the black. They were gone. For now. New accord. In the wake of the battle, the council reconvened. Not in fear, but in unity. They passed the Apex Doctrine, officially creating a multi-species defense initiative. Led by humans and hybrid command units, its mission was simple: no longer prey. Never again unprepared. Telzik was promoted to Accord High Commander. HFY was made Chief Technologist of the new War Department. And Rourke? She refused a promotion. Instead, she requested something else. A team, a ship, and a long-range scouting charter. Varlen granted it. Why? Because predators don't wait. They hunt. Final scene. Into the wild. Months later, in deep space, the new ship, the Obsidian Fong, drifted silently. Faster, meaner, hungrier than before. Inside, Rourke walked the bridge. Her crew, a mix of species once too afraid to speak, now worked in fluid unity. Telzik's voice echoed over a secure channel. "Where will you go?" Rourke stared into the black. "To find them. Before they find us again." She smiled. "Let them fear us this time." The Fong disappeared into hyperspace, not fleeing.
Hunting.